Welcome back to another week of musical March Madness. Do you remember the theme for this month? Well, there's actually two themes. The first is we do a dance that's in three, because this is the third month. This week we're doing the Polonaise, and we're also talking about a musical instrument family. So this week it's brass instruments. That's things like the trumpet, trombone, French horn, tuba. I'm sure you've all heard brass instruments many times. All right, so on to our dance that's in three, the Polonaise. Now, last week we had the waltz, and I bet a lot of you have maybe heard of a waltz before or heard of one. I bet not as many of you have heard of the Polonaise. What exactly is the Polonaise? Well, you'll find out pretty soon. All you have to do for now is count to three, right? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to play you a little bit of a Polonaise. Just listen for that rhythm. Right, you're listening for 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. At least that's what I'm screaming inside my head the whole time I'm playing. So that was a Polonaise by Chopin, one of the most famous Polish composers. So what is the Polonaise? Where did it come from? And how do you dance it? Well, I'll show you in a little bit. So first let's talk about the name and what it means, because I've been using more of a French pronunciation. Polonaise, well actually they would say probably Polonaise, right? It's a French word that means Polish, because the dance originally came from Poland. So let's find Poland. We've got Europe right here. Poland is this orange on this map, orange country right next to Germany and Ukraine, a whole bunch of other countries to the south. So Poland is right here. The French would say Polonaise. If you're from the United States, America, right, that's where we are. Well, we're actually on the other side, but that didn't fit on this map. Americans usually say Polonaise, which is okay, right? Think of the word mayonnaise. That's pretty easy. Polonaise rhymes with mayonnaise. So it doesn't matter whether you say Polonaise, Polonaise, or if you've got the real through-your-nose American accent, Polonaise. Either way, we're talking about a dance that came from Poland, and it's in three. Now see if you can count to three while you watch some dancers perform the Polonaise. I think I'll use Polonaise from now on, the American pronunciation. So you'll see some dancers performing the Polonaise. So watch and see, is it slow or fast? Do they carry themselves in a certain way? Are they wearing any kind of special costumes? Those are all things that give you clues as to maybe where the dance came from. And then we'll talk about it afterwards, but I thought you'd like to watch it first. Maybe you can even pick up on the footwork. All right, we'll get into that later too. So here we are, the Polonaise. Well, those dancers had some pretty fancy costumes. That's because the Polonaise comes from the courts of Europe. And the noble classes would all get together and have a fancy dance party. So you'd have the counts and countesses, dukes and duchesses, the princes and princesses. They would all come in and have a dance party. Now, it's not like a dance party today where it's more of a free-for-all. You kind of walk in, you say hey to your friends, and then you jam out and walk out. Well, these were the noble classes, and they all had certain levels in society too, right? Now, I don't know if the duke was higher than the count or the other way around, I'm not sure, but they knew who was at which level of society. So they had to conduct themselves a certain way. And so their parties were very formal affairs. The Polonaise, I'm trying to use the American pronunciation, the Polonaise was used as a way to enter the party. So instead of just walking in like this, you come in a certain way, present yourself, and the party begins. So did you pick up on the dance step? If not, let me show you. So here's the part of class that's always kind of tricky. I'm trying to teach you a dance step and I can't actually see you. So if you're at home, well, you've got lots of room. You can stand up and move around. If you're in a classroom at Bethany, if you're able to stand up, I invite you to. And just be careful you don't want to get too close to your neighbor. But basically, we're just going to be walking forward. So that's not too bad. And in fact, steps 1 and 2 are pretty easy because they're just walking. It's you just walk, walk. It's step 3 that's the tricky one. Because there's a word for, I don't know how to say it in Polish, chodzony or something like that. It's a word that means walking step, which is another thing that Polonaise came from. But I'm going to stick with Polonaise because I can at least say that. All right, so let's see if we can try this. I'll show you what to do. So steps 1 and 2 are easy because you're just walking. Ready? I'm going to start with this leg first. It doesn't matter which leg you use because we do it on both sides. So ready? Here I go. It goes like this. It's 1, 2, and on step 3, you have to be careful. Step 3, you have to do something with both legs at the same time. You're stepping with one while you brush the other leg out. Ooh, let me go back to 1. Okay, so it goes like this. I'm going 1 is walk, 2 is walk. Step 3 is this. I'm going 3. See that? I step on this leg and I'm brushing this one out. Now I'm going to hop back and do the same thing with the other leg. All right, you don't have to hop back. All right, so here we go. This is 1, 2, and then 3. So watch out for 3. It's kind of tricky, right? So on 3, and I'm also bending my knee a little bit. You can remember, on 3, bend the knee. On 3, bend the knee. So, and I also, you can say to yourself, step, step, brush. Step, step, brush. That's another way to remember that on 3 you're brushing. That's what I'm saying inside my head the whole time. I'm going step, step, brush. Step, step, brush. So now we're going to do, let's slow it down a little bit. We're going to try, let's try 3 plus 3, which is 6. All right. So I'm starting with this leg. Here we go. Let's go nice and slowly. So 1, 2, 3. It's step, step, brush, step, step, brush. Did you get it? I'm going to go back and do the same thing. All right, here I go. Same tempo. 1, 2, 3. It's step, step, brush, step, step, brush. All right, and my head went down a little when I said brush because I was bending my knee. All right, now I don't feel like a noble yet because my arms are kind of flapping all over the place. That would never do. Now, if you were a noble dancing, you would have a partner. Well, we don't have partners now. So instead, we're going to you can either put your hands on your hips like this if you want, or you can put your hand out to the side like you're gesturing maybe to someone as you enter the room because you want to make a fancy entrance into the royal dance ball, right? So here we go. Let's try this one more time. All right, now we're ready to go. So it's 1, 2, 3. It's step, step, brush, step, step, brush. And you would just keep doing that over and over. You can do that outside at recess, at home, walking down the sidewalk. People might look at you funny, but that's okay. You can say, I'm practicing for the Polonaise. All right, now I'm going to show you how to write the rhythm. Now I'm going to show you how to write the rhythm that makes the Polonaise a Polonaise. Now it's not the rhythm of the feet, right? Because your feet are just going step, step, brush, step, step, brush, right? That's just ta, 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 ta. Just 3 quarter notes. That's pretty easy. No, I'm talking about the rhythm that gives it that Polonaise sound. Bum da 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 da. Bum da 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 da. The one that makes you want to stand at attention and be ready for the ball. Okay, so that goes like this. Dum da 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 da. How do you write that? Well, let me show you. Okay. Beat 1 would be this. It's, we're doing 3 notes. Now the first one is an 8th note. here's where it gets a little tricky. The second two, you just have to make sure you have two beams connecting these second two notes because those are 2/16. So it's like dum da da, right? That's the first beat. Dum da da. The rest of it is stuff that you've done before, so don't worry. Ta ticke. Then after that, it's just t t t t. Well, that should be easy. T t t t. I know how to do that. All right. T t t t. I'm going to call that number 1 actually because we're going to write 2 rhythms, but this is the rhythm that happens the most often at the beginning of phrases in the Polonaise. Polonaise. I've heard the word so many different ways, or both ways, so many times I can't remember which is which. Polonaise, I'll try to say. All right, so here's, if you listen for the one that I played at the beginning of class, in my left hand I do this rhythm a lot. Dum da 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 dum da 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 da. Dum da 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 da. 1 and a 2 and 3 and there it is. That rhythm happens over and over and over. The second rhythm is what happens at the ends of phrases a lot. It does this a lot, and then da 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 is our second rhythm. Da 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 da. How does that go? Don't worry, I'll show you that one too. All right, so that is. It starts with 4/16 notes. So make sure, now this isn't it yet, this is just 4/8 notes. We need a second beam underneath there to make it 16ths. There, now we're ready. All right, so this is how it starts, as ticka ticka, right? On one beat, 4 sounds. Ticka ticka, then ta ta. Well, that's easy to make, ta ta. We've done that before. All right. So here it is, your standard oh, let me show you how to spell the word that we've been talking about. I'm going to put it up on the top here. Polonaise. That's how you spell it. And you can capitalize it if you want, or not. You can just say, this is a Polonaise. See, I can't decide which one to say. But if you're saying, this is Polonaise number 3 in whatever, that's the title of a piece, then you would capitalize it. So anyway, so here's your standard Polonaise, would go something like this. Dum da 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 da, bum da 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 da, bum da 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 for a while, bum da 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 da. Then it finally ends with da 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 da. All right, so let's go back to the one that you saw dancers outside doing. I'm going to show you just the end of that clip. Listen for this rhythm at the end of the phrase. Da 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 dum. Did you hear that rhythm at the end? There it was. All right, now I don't want to end with that Polonaise. I want to show you a different one because, in all honesty, that one, it's a little bit slow and dreary sounding. So if I were going to a fancy dance party and that was the very first piece, I don't know if I would stick around for the rest of it. So I want to show you one that's a little more lively and uplifting. Also, I want you to get a good look at some well-trained dancers doing the step, step, brush, step. So I'm trying to do it with my fingers because you can't see my feet, but they do it way better than I would do anyway. So enjoy this excerpt from them. Now, I think this is in Germany. I'm not sure. It's a clip I found on YouTube, and of course you can't always be sure where things come from. A lot of the comments were in German, so that's why I'm guessing it's Germany. If so, Germany's right next to Poland, right? So those dancers probably heard a lot of the Polonaise. All right, so listen for that. Look or watch for the step, step, brush, step, step, brush in their feet, and they do other steps too, but watch for that one. And at the very end of the clip, you're going to hear da-da-da-da-da-da. So here we are, some, I think, German ballet dancers doing the Polonaise. Did you catch that ending? Right, there it was. Ticka-ticka-ta-ta. All right, well, that's enough of the Polonaise for now. You can practice on your own. Now we're ready for the second part of class. Brass instruments. Yes, brass instruments. I'm probably the wrong person to be teaching you about brass instruments because I don't really play one myself. So I'm going to let some other experts explain to you what brass instruments are. Then at the end, I'm going to come back and show you a little bit up close of the trumpet and without playing. And then I'm going to show you some homemade brass instruments that I'm going to blow into. Whew, shocking, I know. All right, well, I'll see you soon.
I love the sound of brass instruments like these trumpets, trombones, and of course, horns.
Me too.
Now, this music is called Horn Concerto No. 4 by Mozart.
Do you think it might be twice as good as his Concerto No. 2?
I don't know, but I do think we should probably find out how brass instruments work.
Oh. Yeah, so do I. Brass instruments like this trumpet make sounds when the air inside them is made to vibrate. Vibrating air molecules bump into the molecules next to them, which makes them vibrate too. This creates a sound wave which travels through the instrument and comes out of this part, which is called the bell. When a sound wave reaches our ears, we hear the sound.
We can imagine what those sound waves look like using this spring. So, Greg, catch one end.
Good.
Nice. And if we imagine that the brass instrument is at this end, then as that sets the air vibrating, it starts off the sound wave, like this.
Oh, yes. Wicked. Look at
Good,
that.
isn't it? And you can see the vibration travelling all the way along the spring. Chuck it back.
But how do you get the air in the brass instrument to vibrate? It's not as simple as just blowing into it. It's time. Still can't do it. When you play a brass instrument properly, this is what your lips look like. In super slow-mo, you can see that your lips have to vibrate, which means they're moving backwards and forwards really quickly. Believe it or not, a player's lips can vibrate over 1,000 times a second. It's the player's lips vibrating against the mouthpiece that makes the air in the trumpet vibrate, and this creates the sound waves.
But these sound waves don't come directly out of the bell. Instead, they're bounced backwards and forwards, creating what we call a standing wave. Let me show you. Right, we've got a rope here, and Greg, can you... That end, brilliant, hold it. Now, what's going to happen is Greg is going to wiggle his end of the rope. It's going to bounce off me, and we should create a standing wave. So go on, start your wiggling. Go on. And there we have it. That is a standing wave, and it's known as a standing wave because the wave doesn't look to be moving, even though we are wiggling the rope.
Can I stop yet?
Yes, you can.
Thanks. So, what happens is the air inside the instrument is vibrating. That then sets the air outside the instrument vibrating, and the vibrations then move through the air until they reach our ears.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, loud.
And it is loud because how loud something is, its volume, depends on the size of the vibrations that make up the sound waves. So if I blow hard with more energy, I make bigger vibrations.
No.
And that produces a louder sound. If I can make my lips vibrate more gently, I make smaller vibrations with less energy. So the sound is softer, like this.
Yeah, I prefer that.
Thought you might.
The earliest brass instruments weren't in fact made from brass at all. They were made from shells and animal horns, which is how some of them got their name, horns.
Makes sense. Now, modern brass instruments, like this French horn, look a little bit different. Now, one thing you might not have noticed at first glance is they are just really long tubes. They're just curled up really tightly to make them easier to hold and to play.
Now, if we were to unwind all the tubing in the French horn, you'd find that it's a whopping 5 meters long.
A sound is coming out, but the thing is, a major problem is that it's very difficult to play lots of different notes.
What sort of note comes out of your brass instrument depends how much air inside the instrument is vibrating. When lots of air vibrates, it tends to vibrate more slowly, making a lower note. Less air vibrates faster, and we hear a higher pitched note.
Now, to prove this, I've put 3 metal tubes inside these 3 bottles of coloured water. In this bottle, there's a lot of water. In this one, not so much. And in this one, even less. This means there's more air in this tube, less air in this one, and even less in this third one. So if I blow across the tube with the most air in it, this one, I should make the low note. But if I blow across the tube with the least air in it, this one, I should get a higher note. Should. And if I blow across the middle tube, I should get a note that's somewhere between the two. It worked!
It does work, but the trick is to be able to quickly change the amount of air that's vibrating in your instrument. There are several ways to do that on brass instruments.
Now, one way is to use something called a slide, and this is how a trombone works. If I stretch the slide out as far as I can, it makes the tube of air longer, and that means a lower pitched note. But if I pull it back as far as it will go, then the tube of air gets shorter, which gives a higher pitched note. See?
Lovely, yes.
Now, different positions on the slide make different lengths of air, which make lots of different notes.
Okay, I get it. Another way of changing the amount of air that's vibrating is to use something called a valve. On an instrument like the trumpet, the player can press 3 valves. This is how you play the note C. And to make a higher note like D, you do this. Pressing the valves means there's less air vibrating, and that makes the note higher.
Brilliant! Another brass instrument is called a bugle, and it has no valves at all. And you can make one from some ordinary plastic piping. So, while I finish this off, Greg, what else have you found out about brass instruments?
Well, they're not all made of brass. The shofar is a Jewish instrument made from the horn of a sheep. It dates back thousands of years and is still used in synagogues all over the world. How's your bugle getting on, Fran?
I'm almost there, and this is what you do. You take a length of really clean hosepipe, about 1 metre long, and you've got to wind it round twice, like this. And I've used sticky tape just to hold it in place and stop it from unwinding. Then again, we use a clean hosepipe connector, and we attach that onto one end, and this is going to be the mouthpiece of our bugle. You just screw that into place like that.
Gotcha.
And at the other end, you use a funnel, and that is the bell.
Easy.
Yep. And then you're all done. It's a bugle.
That's surprisingly good.
It's good, isn't it? And I've built you one, so we can take our place in the orchestra and jam along with Mozart's Horn Concerto No. 4.
Love to.
Well, brass instruments look like a lot of fun to play. They just take practice like anything else. I never learned how to play one, but here we have this trumpet. Now, I'm not going to play it for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's not mine. I found it here in the Bethany Choir Room in some cabinets underneath, so it's been here for many years, so it belongs to either Bethany or someone who left it behind or donated it a long time ago, but that's why I'm not going to play it because it's not mine. Second of all, I'm not going to play it because I haven't been trained. I never had a brass lesson in my life, so I don't have what's called the correct embouchure. Embouchure is another fancy French word for how do you hold your mouth when you're blowing in. So since I never learned the right embouchure for a brass instrument, you also would have one for different woodwind instruments. Any wind instrument, you need the correct embouchure. All right, so without that, I can't play, but we'll talk about what happens when you do play it. You blow in, you make those sound waves travel, the vibrations, and without the valves, I'm going to ignore those, you have a tube that's about this long. Sound goes in and around, It's however long this would be if you uncoiled it and had it in one big length. Now each valve changes the length of tubing. So the valve in the middle adds just a little bit of extra tubing, just that much. This valve adds this much tubing. There, yeah, holding it so you can see it. This valve adds a little bit more tubing, which is this long. So you can change the notes by doing different valves or combinations of valves, right? So you see trumpet players have to hold it kind of right. They'll go like this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or all of them, none of them. That's what makes the sound on the trumpet, and also what you're doing with your embouchure. So, all right, that's enough of the trumpet. Since I don't play it, I'm putting it away. All right, but I will blow into some instruments using things that I found at home in the garage. Now, they're not metal, because I don't have access to a metal shop. I'm not a welder or a plumber, so I couldn't make my own trumpet, even if I wanted. But I did find this. We ran out of aluminum foil, so this happened to be left over. The inside, let me try, see if I can get a note. Again, I'm just going to go like this. It's not the right technique, but it might work. I got something. All right, now let's try the paper towel tube. Now this one is a little bit bigger around. It's also soft and cushy to hold, so let me try it. Oh boy. So now I'm going to try one after the other. I'm going to try to do the same thing with my lips, but I can't guarantee that. All right. Aha. So I got a different sound out of this one. This one sounded a little higher to me, maybe because it's smaller around. Now I'm going to make a trombone. All right. So they're different diameters. I'm going to put one inside the other, and I'm hoping, if this all works out, that when I blow in here, the tube is one length, and when I pull it out, it's a longer length. So I'm hoping that this will be a lower note, and this will be a higher note. I'm going to start with a low, see if I can slide up. Here we go. It worked! Wow! Well, it's not pretty, but that's my paper towel cardboard trombone. All right, let's try some other materials. Now, I did find this bit of metal. We had a either dryer or washing machine a few years ago, a new one. This end looks a little cleaner, so it's a new part. It hasn't been used, but still, it's been lying around the garage. Let me try blowing in. It works, and I got a sound good enough for me. All right, let's try a few more instruments. How about the PVC tube? All right, now you have to be careful. I don't want to cut my lips, but here we go. All right, let me try this one. That's a note. Nice. Okay, how about this PVC tube? It's wider and longer. I think it's going to be lower, but I'm not sure. It depends on my embouchure. Well, you heard I got two notes because my lips hadn't quite settled in, but either way, it's lower. I'm going to try them back to back. I'm going to try to do the same thing, but I don't know. Ooh, it's kind of like... Wow, I've got a trumpet, but it's in two pieces. All right, that's the PVC pipe instrument. Now we have one more. I'm going to do one more trombone. Let me see if I get... yeah. All right, I'm going to blow in this one. No, I'm going to blow in this one because I've done this before. All right, here we go. I'm going to blow in and hope that, again, I get a lower sound here and a higher sound. That's all I'm looking for. That's it. Now I'm going to try a tune. Oh boy, here we go. My first brass tune ever. Well, sort of. Mary Had a Little Lamb. It wasn't great, but hey, I hadn't practiced. All right. Well, there it is. That just goes to show you, you can try brass instruments at home. Maybe just go outside or in the garage. You don't want to bug your parents too much. So anyway, that's it. So today's lesson, we had the Polonaise. See, I can't even decide how to say it. Polonaise, dance in 3, 1 and a 2 and 3, and 1 and a 2 and 3. And the brass instruments, or brass instruments. These are just things I happen to find lying around. So anyway, I had fun. Hopefully you had fun and learned something, and I will see you all next week.